And a hush. Well, I want to welcome Jessie Rosen. Jessie, you've had a successful career writing scripts for ABC, NBC, Netflix, and others. But now we want to talk about your very first novel called The Heirloom. So, hi.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
Good, good. Well, when you first open the book, what prompts your main character Shay to go on a world mission, and what is she after?
A very strong superstition is what prompts her. And I confess it is a superstition that is true to my own family, my own Italian side of the family. And that superstition is that rings, specifically engagement rings, hold the energy, the karma of all the relationships in which they've been worn. And she tells her now fiance no thank you to a vintage ring. And yet he has a very big and important reason that he gives her one anyway. And so she feels like the only way she can feel comfortable walking into this marriage wearing this ring is if she knows its history. Who wore it? What were their relationships like? And are they going to give her what she calls happily ever after energy? So off she goes.
And so superstition really plays a big role in this. Is this sort of a metaphor for underlying fears or something? What is that?
That's exactly right. And in my own life, my superstitions, at first they're family lore and you follow them because that's what the family does. But then when push comes to shove, and in my own wedding, I felt myself attached to these rules and all these rules that I really think exactly what you said. They were this cover for fears I had about guaranteeing myself this happy forever and this happy future. And of course, we know that's technically impossible, but I was really excited to take a character through the journey of getting ready to say, I do. And like, where is the I in that? My issues, my fears, my background. So that is what it's about for Shay. And I think we get her there. Readers, we'll see.
Yes, yes, and she's not alone in her quest because she is accompanied by.
She's accompanied by two people. First, by her sister, who cannot let her go anywhere unattended. And I am a sister. I'm a big sister. So I imagined that if one of my younger sisters set off on this mission, I would buy the first ticket and be right there with them. So she has her sister kind of trying to rein her in. And then she has a pretty nosy and pushy journalist. And that character's name is Graham. And he thinks there's a big story in this. He's in a place in his career where he could use a big story.
Hmm.
And so off he goes to try and use her as the subject, but much more unfolds, of course.
Okay, and then you tell the story in many different places. Tell us a little bit about the settings.
Right. So my character starts in Los Angeles. That's where she lives and she's from. But then she soon discovers that, which is a connection to her own heritage, there is an Italian family that was a piece of this ring's history. So, of course, she has to go to Italy. So she starts in Florence. She spends some time in Tuscany in a very small, picturesque town. Then she jets off to Rome for another piece of the puzzle. But then, lo and behold, a piece of it takes her to Lisbon. So she's got to hop over to Portugal, down the west coast of Portugal, which is the beautiful Algarve coast, for some more magic and mystery and uncovering. Then she's got to fly through Boston, take a stop in New York, and make it all the way back to LA. So these were the places that I was longing to visit while I was writing the book, which was still during the pandemic when travel still felt unsafe for me. And so they really were based on places I had been and longed to return, and then places that had been meaningful to my own love story past and family past.
And so, what are some of the conflicts, internal and external, that she experiences while she's on this quest? I
Yeah.
guess I have Graham in mind, maybe.
Yes, yes. Well, I think external first. The external conflict and really the engine of the story is who wore this ring? And at first, Shay is kind of convinced, okay, I'll just have to find the one story and I'm sure the ring is safe, but much more unfolds in terms of how is she going to track down and rewind the history of the ring to understand who wore it and what were their relationships like. So, what's inside this ring energetically? So, we have that as kind of the physical journey. But then the emotional journey is really, oh God, is this questioning in me? And is this decision in my fiance to give me the wrong kind of ring? Does this all mean I'm on the wrong path romantically? And then when she meets Graham, and there are some similarities in their backgrounds, Shay comes from a family where there's divorce that majorly factors into her feelings about love and relationships. That becomes a question. Is all of this happening to help me realize that I should be turning my attention elsewhere and that my path to love is actually headed in a different direction? So she has to figure that out.
So it's not really about love and marriage in the true sense of being a romance novel. So what's the
Yeah.
difference about the Heirloom?
I like to think of the Heirloom as this love story about the relationship between my main character and herself. So, how is she going to come to put her understandings about love even before her relationship with these men? What is it that she needs? Who is she? What does marriage mean to her? What does commitment mean to her? What does the hope of forever mean to her? And how is she going to figure that out without either of these men in the mix? I like to think of Shay as a person who doesn't yet have that strong of a relationship with herself and her intuition. And along the journey, that's the growth that I really wanted to see in her so she can come to love her own perspective on things and to have a relationship with herself. Which, yeah, I'm so glad you raised that, because it is a bit of a twist or an expansion on what we might typically read in a romance or romantic comedy. So the elements are there. I'm just kind of pushing it a little bit in a different or newer direction.
Okay, and how does script writing and novel writing differ for you? And what are your writing habits?
First of all, novel writing is just so much longer. Oh my God. I can't. And I set out to write, I wanted, of course, for this to be a novel. It had been a dream for a really long time. So I set out to write it, but I just can't. When you write a screenplay, the dialogue goes down the middle and that's about it. So filling entire pages with words, it was a big task. So taking all that I knew about screenplay structure, creating scenes, creating really vivid imagery, cinematic things, and then expanding that into books was a really fun process because I felt like I got the structural lessons from all of that time in film and TV about really how to tell a good, solid story. Learning the prose part of it and getting my prose voice down, honing that with so much reading so that I could see how the greats had done it, and just really working on it and editing it. That was really the process.
Did
And
you
in
go
turn,
through did you go through a lot of edits?
so I wrote the first draft as part of National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo.
Oh yeah.
I was so intimidated by the prospect of this that I thought if I make it go fast on purpose, then maybe it'll just help me get to that kind of, forgive the language, but that vomit draft, so that it's all
Yeah.
just out and I can have something to work with, because I was sitting in a lot of anxiety and tension around it. So I thought, I've just got to make this a game and get it done. And so, of course, when you write something in 30 days, it needs a good edit as draft too. And then when I signed on with my agents at CAA, I really got wonderful notes about some options for modernizing the book. A little bit of that journey of Shay in terms of her relationship with self really came from their encouragement to, I had pieces of it in there and I think they saw it and really wanted to encourage me.
And
And
Molly
then
Glick is your agent, right?
she is, and she's
The
really wonderful.
icon.
She's really
Yeah.
wonderful. And I think that her digging in that way, I think she really saw what I was trying to do, even more so than necessarily I could.
Mhm.
And then, of course, when we sold to Putnam and Kate Dresser is my amazing agent there, it grew and changed again. So my team of amazing women really took this book and helped it be the best it could be.
Is writing easy for you, and has it been a difficult journey to find a publisher? I mean, you're in the film business already, so we would think that it would be very easy for you, but
Yeah, my career has been really diverse and windy and long before this point. So I started with this blog. It was like, 2005, everyone has a blog. And that really did get me the attention that transitioned me to film and TV. And in film and TV for like a decade, I had some really exciting and big moments, some sales of original content, some show running of existing TV shows, but it's still a windy path. So I felt like I was honing my skills and finding my way so that some of my relationships, even the ability to get to someone as experienced and renowned as Molly Glick really came from all of the time I spent developing those relationships. This book was very hard to get to the place that we all felt it was ready to sell. I think we felt that it was in there. And then I will confess that when we took it out to sale, it's sold very quickly and with the offer of a 2-book deal. So I'm in the middle of writing my second book right now. So it's so interesting, right? This process felt like it was really blessed and supported, and I felt really taken care of, even though it was very challenging. But when I look back on oh my goodness, 15, 16 years of professional writing to this point, there have been easy kind of like they come to you moments and really hard moments. And I think that is just the journey of a writer. I actually feel the same about my own writing process. There are days when I am just like, I can't even get this sentence right. I got to walk away. And then there are days when I sit with my kind of like notes and look at them, and suddenly a whole chapter flows out.
yes.
So it's almost the writing process or the writing journey is a metaphor for the writing process and vice versa. And I think, frankly, expecting it to just be easy breezy is setting yourself up for some frustration.
In the early days of your screenwriting, surely you must have run into some rejections. So how did you handle that?
Endless. It is more no's than yeses in this business. And I think you grow to understand what the rejection means. So instead of seeing it as a rejection of yourself or a rejection of your ideas, I really had to learn to parse out, why are they saying no? Are they saying no because this idea isn't a fit for the marketplace? Okay, how can I course correct? Are they saying no because my writing isn't strong enough in this category? Okay, how can I course correct? So each rejection, I think when you're very young in the industry, it feels like each rejection is such a overwhelming everything rejection. If you
Yes.
if you can't learn to understand what's behind the rejection, then I feel like once that happened for me, I was able to say, okay, if I intend to keep going in this and to stay on this crazy, crooked, windy ladder, then how can these rejections inform what I do next? And what help do I need? And what internal work do I need to do to keep going? So, I mean, they sting every time. It's such a letdown. But if you believe in it, and I think you want it, you want to get those ideas out there. A little bit of my decision to write this as a book was that in television development, you can have a really wonderful process of creativity working with the producer and even getting as far as a network. But if it doesn't go on to television, then no one gets to see it.
Right.
So I thought with the Heirloom, look, if nothing ever happens with this book, I'll have it. And
Yes.
I can make copies for my friends and family. But
That's great.
it felt like this, I needed at that stage, we had been through the pandemic, a lot of work was challenging for film and TV. I just needed something that I could hold so I could send it to people. And so we could debate the very things that are in this book. I was really looking to be in community with my work. And I was missing a little bit of that, just given the state of things in film and TV.
Ah, yes, yes. What advice do you have for writers trying to publish in a tough world today?
Oof. First of all, I feel like my advice is to share your work as quickly and as often as you can. I talk to some young writers that are waiting for it to be perfect because they feel like the publishing process is really about the last step. It's about
Mhm.
submitting. It's about querying. And I think that if you can bring any kind of community of a writing group, any kind of help in terms of, there are wonderful writing coaches out there, some of whom are friends of mine that I know help young writers form their novels. And so instead of keeping it so close to the chest, I think that sharing it early so that you can hear some feedback on where this idea could use a little tweaking to be fit for the marketplace, or where your writing could use a little tweaking, instead of kind of being a little more precious with it, which is certainly something I did early in my career. And, inviting that feedback can be overwhelming. You just think, oh, another round of notes. But the notes are what get you to that point. And we as writers know so much about our ideas, and they're so beloved to us. And no one can certainly change our voice at the heart of it. But there are professionals that are really tapped into the industry. And at the end of the day, if you're looking to be a commercial writer or a writer that publishes, then that is something you do have to consider. So
Right.
getting that advice, understanding the business marketplace, being a reader of what's out there and seeing what works, I don't think that limits creativity. I think it puts your creativity inside a space that can get your work out there. And then maybe you can, take some risks and be a little bit edgier, but that would be one of my
That's
pieces of
cool.
advice.
That's cool. And do you think that there's a chance that the Heirloom will become a screenplay?
It would be a dream for it to become a screenplay. And one of the really fortunate things about my time in the film and TV industry is that I have a little bit of a path to that. So we will take the Heirloom out, which is the colloquial take it out, meaning
Take it out,
pitch
shop
it,
it.
shop it, and see what happens. I see it in that format, but at the same time, just like we talked about, right, it's hard to know what the marketplace is interested in. But it would be a dream, and it would be a dream for this to kind of come full circle back to my original work, and to get to even write the screenplay, or to write a draft of it, to adapt it.
Yes. And what would you like for people to take away from reading the Heirloom?
I want people to take away the idea that it may be scary to confront the deeper parts of your fears about something, especially something as big as the commitment of marriage. But I'm such a believer that if you go inside, and if you uncover, and if you work through it, and if you confess to people, even if it includes some missteps along the way, that growth of saying, I'm unsure, I don't know if I'm ready, I don't know what I believe, will make you stronger once you get to the point of being ready to take that next step. And that's just something I personally believe, digging in there, you arrive at that next step, whether it's marriage, whether it's a new career, whether it's a new city, whether it's motherhood, as a stronger version of yourself. And that, I think, in terms of the example of marriage, is what really leads to a happily ever after with yourself, in addition to your partner.
That's beautiful. Thank
Oh,
you very
thank
much.
you.
All right, Jessie Rosen, author of The Heirloom, which is your debut novel. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, let me stop this. Are you sure you want to stop? Yes.